Is it possible for your business to be successful but not healthy? Find out now on the Unlock Success podcast.
This is the Unlock Success podcast. We're helping entrepreneurs around the world dive deep into the keys you need to shatter excuses, believe in yourself, and help you achieve your highest goals. Here's your host, 8-figure entrepreneur and the living legend of internet marketing, Anthony Morrison.
What's up, everybody? Anthony Morrison here, and welcome to another episode of the Unlock Success podcast. I wanted today's episode to be sort of like a check engine light moment for your business. Listen, I love staying positive and pushing people towards success. I love counting the wins daily in my business and not getting distracted by what, somebody else is doing or where they think I should be or any of that kind of other stuff that can foster more negativity than good. But sometimes it's really important to take a step back and critically look at my business and ask, if my business is successful, is it healthy, right? So even if it's successful, is it healthy? Now you might be thinking, what's the difference? And while it may be hard to see when it comes to business, we understand this concept in just about every other area of life, right? Look, if someone tells you they recently lost 100 pounds in a few months, the first thing that would come to my mind at least is, well, that's great if they did it in a healthy way, right? Because we all know that there's many different ways to lose weight, right? There's healthy ways and not so healthy ways. Or let's look at relationships. Let's say a friend of yours is going around telling people they're engaged. Everyone around them might think, great, that's awesome. But if you happen to know that that person's in a toxic relationship, well, what may seem like a success is actually not very healthy for that person. You see what I mean? The same is true in your business. There are healthy ways of being successful and not so healthy ways. So what's the secret? How do we know how to identify what's healthy and what isn't? That's what we're going to talk about today. Now, for those who just stumbled on to this podcast, or maybe you happen to be watching me on our YouTube channel, my name is Anthony Morrison. I've been an internet marketer for over 15 years. And during that time, I've also been a real estate investor, a software inventor, an author. And now I'm hosting this podcast to help, provide entrepreneurs with not just these strategies, but the mindset tools that they need to succeed. So if you like this type of content, make sure you subscribe to my podcast. And if you happen to be on YouTube watching us, just hit the like button and the subscribe button to make sure that you never miss out on an episode of our podcast. All right, so let's jump on into it. Here's exactly how you know if your business is not only successful, but also healthy. First, ask yourself what success looks like in your business. Then ask yourself why you want that success. If you don't like the answer to that second question, your business probably isn't very healthy. I can't tell you how many times, my students will tell me, I want to achieve X or I want to achieve Y, right? But when I ask them why they want to achieve these things, they have the silliest reasons like, well, that's what my competitors are making, and so I want to make that too. Or my family sees how many followers I have, maybe they'll be impressed, right? I had a friend that owns a Facebook advertising agency, and he refused to work with a client recently. And the reason was when he asked the client what his goals were, the client said, I want to generate 1,000 leads a day from Facebook because that's what a buddy of mine is doing. My friend who runs the agency refused to work with him, not because he couldn't generate the leads. That part's pretty simple. But he told me that anyone with that kind of unhealthy motivation is destined to be long-term trouble. And he'd rather work with people who not only had successful businesses, but had healthy ones as well. Now look, it's easy to hear me critique my students or this client, and you can think they're vain or whatever, whatever you might think, right? But don't you think the same way sometimes? I mean, think about that. Like, don't you kind of think the same way sometimes? Have you ever been tempted to do something just because you want to be like someone else, or just because you want a certain status when it comes to that success? I mean, I know I have, right? And I have to continuously fight against it. The temptation rarely goes away, so it's critical to always be asking yourself whenever you want to achieve something, why do I want to achieve it? What's my motivation for success in this area? And if you're satisfied with your answer, then great. Don't let anything stand in your way. But if you take a step back and start to get a little skeptical about your motives, then maybe it's time to pump the brakes. You know what I mean? And don't ever be embarrassed when that happens either. Seriously, if you're able to see this kind of stuff in your business, that's a sign of strength, not weakness. It's honestly a sign that you're on your way to a healthy and successful business. Now, before, this kind of goes way too much and strays way too much into the realm of theory, let me make let me make this kind of super practical, right? Because if I'm being honest, there's one word that perfectly sums up 99% of the unhealthy motivations for success out there. And that word is envy, right? Being envious of someone else's success. Put another way, comparing your success to someone else's, anyone else for any reason. Look, I'm warning you right now, if your motivation to do anything in your business, whether it's make a certain amount of money per month, or it's to maybe, I don't know, get a certain amount of followers or build a certain type of product, if your motivation is based on envy or comparison to someone else in the game, you're destined to fail. Comparing yourself to what other people are doing is not only dangerous because you don't know someone else's story, but it's simply not enough of a motivation factor to get you through the rough patches when things don't go your way. And trust me, that will happen as an entrepreneur. So give yourself the gift of not only a successful business, but a healthy one. Not a business that's based on how you stack up against other people or how you look to other people, but based on your goals, your dreams, and your desires. Remember, when you're pushing towards success, which is what this podcast is all about, right? Ask yourself not just what you want, but why you want it. And you'll be leaps and bounds beyond 99% of the entrepreneurs out there today. Trust me, I can tell you right now, one of the biggest things for me has been Instagram. So I see all these people with 1 million followers and 2 million followers. And I'm like, man, like I've sold 1 million copies of my book and I have millions of students all over the world. Like I should have 1 million followers, you know? But yet there's no real reason for me to have 1 million followers on Instagram unless I have a reason beyond just having the followers, right? And so I find myself struggling with that all the time. Like, how much do I invest in a number of followers, right? To gain a number of followers just so I can say I have them, versus could I take that money and invest it somewhere else in my business that's actually going to turn maybe not into 1 million followers, but maybe it'll turn into 50,000 leads that turn into $100,000 that, you know, in profit, right? That's a much healthier and successful business than wasting money trying to keep up with other people and trying to look important to other people and so on and so forth. So it's very important. You want to look at your business from both perspectives. Are you making your decisions in business because it's the right thing to do for your business, or are you making your decisions in business because you want to keep up with somebody else? That's usually the gut check, right? And if you're making decisions for the wrong reasons, begin to shift. Make a shift in the way you think, in the way you move, and the decisions you make, and start shifting back towards making healthy decisions in your business, and you'll be in line for much longer term success. Hopefully this episode has given you some insight into maybe some of the problems you have in your business, maybe some of the decisions you're making in your business that maybe you should rethink. And that's what this is ultimately all about, is starting the conversation in your head, giving you the practical tips and ideas that you can use to make better decisions, or alter some of the decisions that you're currently making in your business to hopefully have even more success. So I want to thank you for joining me on this episode of the Unlock Success Podcast, and I look forward to visiting with you next time on the next episode of our Unlock Success Podcast.